Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive paradigm mismatch that is quietly rewiring the entire global economy. We are fundamentally transitioning from a world where economic agency is strictly human to one where execution is becoming increasingly machine native. So let's open the hood on this structural shift and explore exactly what happens to finance, settlement, and capital markets when machines take the wheel. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the human anchor assumption, machine native execution, the capital velocity tax, restructured identity, strategic allocation, and finally, the jurisdictional race. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the human anchor assumption. To really grasp the problem here, we have to look closely at modern financial plumbing. From banking rails to compliance, our entire infrastructure rests on one massive, deeply ingrained presumption that economic agency always originates with a person. Just think about the contrast. Legacy human-centric design relies on batch clearing, manual KYC reviews, and contracts needing human signatories who are capable of intent. But machine capabilities, they operate via continuous flow, API-native interactions, and deterministic rules-based execution. We're literally running on two completely different frequencies. This creates a huge architectural mismatch. The human-centric model tolerates batch settlement, like T+2, because humans naturally tolerate and frankly need delay to catch errors. It allows for reversible or contested settlement because humans make mistakes. But the machine-native execution model requires continuous flow, embedded compliance logic, and real-time automation. Discretionary human oversight simply cannot keep up with machine-speed transaction flows. Moving on to Section 2, machine-native execution today. Let's move past the theory and look at the reality on the ground right now. Execution is already shifting away from humans. But to really understand this, we need to redefine what an economic actor actually is. Forget the sci-fi debates about AI consciousness. Functionally speaking, an economic actor is simply any entity capable of making decisions, allocating resources, transacting value, and bearing liability within a defined structure. It's entirely about function, not biology. And this is not just some fringe theory anymore. Global standard setters are openly documenting this shift. The Financial Stability Board has noted that in several asset classes, algorithmic systems already initiate the majority of transactions without any direct human intervention at the point of action. The institutional reality is already here. Let's look at a really concrete example. Earlier this year, Anthropic partnered with an external operator to let an AI agent manage a small vending operation. The agent was incredible. It researched suppliers, it set dynamic prices, it adjusted inventory, and it triggered procurement decisions flawlessly. But step 4 is where it hit a total brick wall. It failed at banking integration. This autonomous, highly capable software broke down not because its logic failed, but because it hit the friction of legacy financial rails that demanded a human to step in. Which brings us to the fundamental thesis of this explainer. The issue is not intelligence, it is architectural compatibility. The absolute primary constraint on automated capital right now is the plumbing, not the brain. Let's dive into Section 3, the capital velocity tax. Let's shift our focus to the macroeconomic impact, using capital velocity as our framework. On the human-centric side, T+2 settlement, waiting 2 days for a transaction to clear, traps massive amounts of working capital. But machines are deterministic. They can settle in near real time with virtually zero trapped capital. Forcing a millisecond speed machine to wait 2 days for money to clear is literally like forcing a Formula One race car to sit in rush hour traffic. It severely throttles capital velocity. So what does this T+2 delay actually cost us? Well, idle capital stops being a safety net and starts acting like a massive structural tax on an automated system. It disrupts continuous treasury logic, it drastically inflates the need for working capital buffers, and it makes outcomes entirely unpredictable for machines that are trying to optimize global supply chains in real time. Section 4, Identity and Compliance Restructured. If the plumbing changes, the rules governing who or what is using it absolutely must change too. Think about our current anti-money laundering regimes. They are intensely manual. They rely on liveness checks, literally asking someone to blink into a smartphone camera. You can't exactly ask a piece of code to do that, right? Machine-native execution requires a totally different approach. We're talking machine-addressable accounts, embedded compliance logic, and continuous automated verification. And regulators definitely see this coming. The Bank for International Settlements has stated that supervisory frameworks must now assess which AI systems are making decisions and at what timescales. Governance adaptation isn't some futuristic thought experiment anymore. Institutions are actively restructuring right now because non-human transaction initiators are here to stay.
Now for Section 5, Strategic Allocation and Infrastructure.
So, where is the smart capital inevitably going to flow to solve these bottlenecks? Under a legacy human-centric regime, your return on invested capital gets choked by the settlement cycle, and intermediaries capture all the float. But shift over to a machine-native regime, and you see an incredible ROIC uplift from faster turnover, minimized float, and intense disintermediation. Faster capital means better returns, but only if you fund the infrastructure that actually allows it. This represents a huge strategic shift. Legacy models basically relied on banking rails acting as toll collectors, defending their regulatory moats. But as execution becomes synthetic, capital is rapidly moving toward programmable protocol infrastructure. Specifically, we're looking at the identity layers, the settlement layers, stablecoins, and treasury platforms that can actually keep pace with algorithms. The reality here is that programmability is no longer just some crypto ideological talking point. It is absolutely a strict functional necessity for scale. Furthermore, we're seeing a total shift in counterparty risk. Instead of underwriting a human's intent, liability frameworks are going to have to underwrite the system design and the model integrity itself. If a platform requires a human to click approve, it simply is not going to survive the scale of what's coming. And finally, Section 6, the jurisdictional race. This infrastructural shift is triggering a fierce global competition. Ultimately, jurisdictional competitiveness is going to hinge on establishing clear legal accountability for automated systems. Regions that lay down precise liability frameworks and modern settlement standards for machines are going to become massive magnets for capital formation. But those that stubbornly cling to human-centric rules, they're going to introduce devastating structural drag into their economies. Which brings us to the core challenge for banks and policymakers today. The transition is already happening. Economic execution is undeniably becoming machine native.